From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lead. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on August 4th, 2023 from Miami, Florida.
Miami, yes.
Yes, we are coming to you live from the Hotel Arlo in Wynwood, Florida. And just so you know, some information in this podcast may have changed by the time you've heard it. However, this is a special edition of the South Carolina Lead. Obviously, AT and I have been here in Miami over the past couple of days.
Yes.
So have not been keeping up on what's going on in South Carolina. Don't worry, we will have you covered next week when we come back on Tuesday. But we're going to give you an extended wind down section because you know what? We earned it too, AT.
We're sorry. Yes, we're sorry for that, but also sorry, not sorry.
Sorry.
We are in Miami. We've been learning so much for you, I would point out, and I do apologize for you having to hear me this early in the podcast. So Gavin and I, we've been here in Miami thanks to PRX. They had us down, and we've been going through a workshop on how to think about improving our podcast for our listeners.
Yeah, we've been part of this cohort. Buzzword right there. We like to say to kids, our cohort. And it's us and about 12 other or so people, public media stations, nonprofit media that sent some of their people to kind of get an idea about how to improve their podcast or create new ones. So it's a podcast accelerator program with a focus on journalism. So super exciting because typically if you've been listening to our podcast, we go to the podcast movement convention every August. And while it's interesting for some people,
it's big.
It's super broad. It's
huge.
Very big. There's not much of a focus on those that are doing journalism pods, or really strong nonfiction podcasts. So we got a lot out of it this week, and we're going to be coming to you guys over the coming weeks to solicit some feedback about the podcast because we've been doing this now, AT, for 6 years plus?
A long time.
And we've had multiple iterations, especially our ride or dies, our OG fans will know what we've gone from one pod at the beginning where we talked to some of our favorite journalists about the stories of the week to 3 pods a week during the pandemic, which we still don't know how we do. We told a lot of folks about that while we were down here, and they're like, you did 3 pods a week? And we're like, we kind of blacked out.
They got a serious what?
But you remember, I kept talking, we had so much information to put out, and we really did just change the entire structure of the podcast over the pandemic. And since then, we've gone to 2 pods, and we found a pretty good rhythm, I think. But we're looking to really improve and just make it as best as we can.
And so, I mean, that you can think oh, sure, that's easier said than done. But we're going to make you, the listener, work a little bit here.
We're going to ask a lot. Not just a voicemail, but just, some surveys.
Maybe more. Maybe some surveys. Maybe some interviews. So if you've called before, I may reach out to you via the number. Gavin, what's that number again?
803-563.
Yeah, exactly. That one. That one. You may get a text. I may ask you hey, are you a new listener? Are you an old listener? Let's talk a little bit about this, right? And if you'd be willing to do that and you haven't called, I'd love for you to reach out. You can send a text message to the number. And it would really help us hone what you as the listener actually care about hearing us talk about here. Yeah,
like we said, 6 years in, we've had multiple iterations of this podcast, but where do we need to go? What else do you want to hear more of? What don't you want to hear more of? And it better not be the wind down segment because we're keeping her.
But if it is, I mean, just let us know. Truly,
honestly.
We're not scared of any feedback because more than my ego that is encompassed by the wind down, I very much want to provide you as the listener something that you care about and are willing to go out of your way to talk to other people about.
And we also learned a lot about just the whole way to develop new podcasts, which we've done. Like South of Spooky was wonderful. And what we can learn from some of you is maybe there's a need for other podcasts or other ideas that you guys have that you think we should maybe even spin off in the Lead extended universe.
The LEU has room. It has room.
So we're excited to hear from you guys in the coming weeks. We'll definitely be reaching out. But again, you can email me at gjackson@sctv.org or atshire@scpublicradio.org or call the number or text the number 803-563-7169. If you don't want to be on the air, you can just say that and we'll just follow up with you.
This is not for air stuff. I mean, if you do want to call the voicemail and drag us, that I would love that. I think that's really funny. But Beyond that, I just think that this might be some sort of, and this is going to be some convention speak right here. This might be an inflection point for us here, where the show might look a little bit different, not drastically different, but in any way that it is different, it will be in service to you as the listener.
Exactly, yeah. We're doing this with you in mind, so let us know. We'll follow up with you guys in the future. But AT, that being said,
yes.
How was your time here in Miami?
I loved Miami. One thing I did want to mention about our sessions and everything, and you just mentioned South of Spooky, the Spook Pod. We really developed that completely backwards.
Yeah. After we were like, we'll go back to how we had this week. We had a lot of different exercises. Like this one, over the past 2 days, we've been doing what they call a design sprint, right? Where we kind of come up with a concept for a podcast, and then we like crash course, make it into a concept, like flush it pretty thoroughly out, and then like pitch it to someone at PRX. And we're like, this would have been better if we actually did this creative flow in the beginning of South of Spooky. But it's just like, it's like things we just kind of develop things on our own. And it's like, oh, here's a better practice to do that. So we can do that in the future, right?
Yeah, but there was truly one part where they said something that was 180 from what Gavin and I did.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other and both went like, and everyone caught it in the room. But so let's get to Miami, Gavin. Okay. Yes. Miami is a hot city. Very hot. Very sticky, humid city.
The first day we got here, Monday, we landed, we got in the hotel around 10, we got to check in early. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go hang out. Let's go walk around first, get some food.
We didn't even walk far.
Yes.
And we were soaking wet with sweat. And I was like, this was one of the first vacations where Caitlin didn't come with me. I didn't overpack, and I was like, I'm not bringing 50,000 shirts here, all right? And I really could have used them.
Yeah.
You know what? I really could have used them.
He's like, we're just walking a couple blocks to this really cool taco pop. I'm like, great. I trust you. You're in charge of my culinary experience always when we travel. And then we get there and I'm like, oh, it's outside, AT. This is beautiful. So I just internalized that. I said, we can't do anything about it. Let's just sit still.
Yes.
You sit still long enough there's fans. Like, you got a cold drink. It's fine.
Gavin was, he was really a lizard here, where he just minimized movements. He was cold-blooded.
Just sticking my tongue out all the time. And it was the beginning of several wonderful tacos that we experienced in this city.
We had some very, very good tacos. We had some good pizza, surprisingly, at a bar called Gramps, where someone moved down from like White Plains, New York or something and opened a pizza place. But it was very, very good. And after we finish this, when we wrap up this, we're going to finally go get some Cuban food.
Finally, yes.
Yes, it's been tough finding it around here. I'm sure that we just didn't look in the right places.
Yeah, because we're in the Wynwood neighborhood. We're not in South Beach, Sobe. But we did pop over there on Monday. We got to meet up with an old friend, Mike Makrovich, who was at the Post and Courier. If you guys remember him, we interviewed him way, way back.
He was on the olden days.
On a big story that he did about conversion therapy in South Carolina. And that was it was really wonderful to catch up with him because he's at WLRN Miami, which is their public radio down here.
He's a public radio person now.
Yeah, a former Post and Courier kid turned public radio. Welcome to the club. It's a small club.
Yeah, who'd have thunk it?
But we got to go and see some of the great bars like Twist and then Palace and just bumped around. We did some karaoke. AT did not sing. He sang along.
I sang backup for Big Country by Big Country. And
it was so good. It was like, it just popped in my mind and AT's like, yes, I need to hear that.
I was itching to go home, and Gavin knew there was only one way to keep me there.
It was the ultimate carrot.
He goes, well, I put my name into saying Big Country, and I go, oh, yeah. And he goes, it's going to be 35 minutes from now. And I was like, I don't care. We're staying.
Yeah, you put up a really good, you were really all in on Monday. We had a long little night, and then we had to wake up and go to work the next day at this conference.
I was struggling. I was honestly shocked with myself that I had the stick-to-itiveness to not skip the very first day.
And we were just also shocked by the sheer number of bad karaoke singers.
There were like 50 people in this place, and not nary one could sing. Nary, And so
I've had this cold, and I was like, this is what's holding me back. I can't sing my high notes. But that's the trick, folks. As much as you want to sing a Mariah Carey
write this
song,
down, everyone, write this down.
A Celine Dion song. Just unless you are that person or you're in choir, just don't do it. You got to go for the low notes. That's why I did Careless Whisper.
No, you also did
These Boots Are Made for Walking by Nancy Sinatra,
which is basically a spoken word song.
Yes,
which is smart.
but you get to interact with the crowd much better.
The crowd, for me, Gavin was like, AT, you have to sing a song. You have to sing. And I was like, I don't think they want to hear Stone Temple Pilots or Alice in Chains. Sad songs about heroin. Yarling and heroin. So I was like, I don't know if this is quite my scene, but I will say I had a great time. It was great being surrounded by creative people of the same mind as of Gavin and I. So I'd love to thank PRX. Thank you so much for having us down here. We love all of them. We love all of you as listeners, and we do this all in service of you. Truly, it has nothing to do with us, even though we are very, very selfish humans.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time. We did have our first day. We'll wrap up. Like we had to walk a couple blocks. We're in Wynwood, so we're, like I said, not in South Beach, but we're across the
bridge,
the waterway from the bridge from it. And we had a team lunch, and it just poured rain. This is after we almost got stuck in an elevator. We were briefly stuck in the elevator.
Yes.
We were all leaving our conference room in this beautiful hotel. It's a nice little cute boutique style hotel. And everyone's like, okay, let's get in the elevator and go down. And then AT and like me and like 3 other people got in. Doors close. Lights flicker. Elevator briefly drops like a foot. And we're like, okay, lights turn back on. And we're all just like, okay, what now?
Everyone froze besides me, who just started pressing every single button.
I didn't freeze. I was like, LOL, we're still alive. At least it didn't drop us to our death. Like, what now? And then I'm like, this is a great team building exercise.
Yes.
And then the next team building exercise was walking in the rain with all your cohort members, getting soaking wet, and then eating sandwiches and pretending like it didn't matter.
They only asked us as a group to go out twice, and both times, as soon as it was time to go, it started pouring rain, and I was like, "Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is."
Miami.
Yeah,
but it was wonderful. Wonderful time.
I did have a great time. We won't keep you any longer. We love you. We miss you. We can't wait to be in studio doing the damn thing. You know. Yes. So. We'll see you next week on Tuesday, and it'll sound much more normal than this. It won't be in Gavin's hotel room with no service.
Yes. Yeah, stay tuned for that next week, especially if any of our cohort members are listening to us. This is not our typical podcast. Please don't judge us. But thank you all for listening. You can always shoot us a message at 803-563-7169 to tell us what you're up to. If you want to be interviewed like we were talking about for some in-depth feedback about the pod and where you guys want to see it go, or if you don't want to see it go anywhere else besides staying true to itself, we'd love to hear from you. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We love those as well. And you can stay up to date with the latest news on southcarolinapublicradio.org and scetv.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. For the South Carolina Lead, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. My big toenails.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. Those are reaching for the sky.